right, and we're back. Episode 3 of Bird Talk. It should be a good one. Firebirds coming off a 49-6 win in enemy territory over the Lakota East Thunderhawks, and they turned their attention this week, Friday night, Sycamore, playing at Firebird Field rather than in Sycamore. And we got a good episode for you today. We got a couple of guests for you. Mitch Bolden, he's going to sit down with us. He's going to talk not just about the East game, but also about the Sycamore game they got coming up, and a little bit about that St. X game, what kind of changed in there at halftime. We also got Pfahler, who's going to talk with her experience on this West team, watching them grow. She's going to talk about Coach Bolden. We got a bunch of interesting stuff coming up, so stick with us. We're glad that you can join us, and be sure to tune in to game day a little bit later tonight.
Here we are today with Pfahler. She's a correspondent for the Journal News. She was a Lakota graduate back when she was in school, and she currently has a couple kids going through the Lakota system. So we've got her here to ask her a couple questions about her experience in broadcasting and her experience in the Lakota system. How are you today, Laurel?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. I'm going to tell you I was an East grad specifically, but my kids are going to Lakota West, so I've got more in the fight with West now. So I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you. What's your experience like compared to going through the system yourself and then having kids in the system?
Well, I was the first class to actually go through Lakota East High School when it opened. So I was a sophomore in 97. And so, sports was very different back then. It was the seniors that year all got to pick which school they were going to. And so a lot of the good sports ended up at West. So I was on the soccer team at East, and that was... we had one returning varsity player, so it was rough going through high school sports at the beginning of the split, but it's fun now. I cover high school sports, so I've gotten to know the coaches at West, and now it's kind of unique seeing my son. He's a 5th grader. He'll do like the camps with the basketball team, and so it's some of the coaches that I've gotten to know as sources are now looking at my kid, and I'm thinking, oh man, I hope that he's making me look good right now. So it's unique, but it's fun.
Yeah. So I'm gonna put you on the spot here. When East and West went up against each other last Friday, who did you root for in that matchup?
Well, I will tell you. Okay, so being an East grad, when I was looking for my house, I knew I wanted to stay in the Lakota district, and I will tell you, I was trying to stay in Lakota East territory because I thought it would be really hard to root for West, but we ended up finding the right house in West territory, and they're the same school, so it's odd. I'm a journalist too, so I can't really say I cheer for either one, but I obviously am going to be wanting to see West do well with my kid going through the school, and my daughter's only in preschool, so she hasn't started any of the camps or anything like that, but I root for a good game, I guess you would have to say. Yeah.
So recently in these past few years, both Lakota West and Lakota East have just rocketed into the spotlight of sports and really became superstars around the Ohio area. What has that really done for the community here?
I think it's great. I mean, West especially has taken off with their football program since Tom Bolden got here. We're talking about football specifically.
I mean, all sports, whatever you want to talk about football, yeah.
But, I mean, it's good to see. I think sports is something, as a parent, I can tell you, that's important to a lot of people to see that the sports are going to be a place that their kids can have opportunities and enjoy some success and learn a little bit of life through those sports. So you want to see the sports teams doing well. And so it's also good just to see the spotlight, with a lot of the college kids coming out of these programs, that's kind of a national spotlight getting put on the community here, so people that are looking to move to the Cincinnati area, it might make them kind of think, oh, let me check out Lakota. So it's good to have that, and it just makes it fun. As a high school student, I just remember that being such a big part of just my social life, being part of the sports scene, and so it's good for you guys to have that too.
Yeah. So looking at Lakota's football program specifically, you've seen, as a reporter, you've seen many teams win state, many teams go. Looking at this Lakota West team, do you think there's any chance we go all the way this year, make something big?
Yeah, I mean, I know that they say defense wins championships. I think that Lakota West has been proving the defense has been solid for the past few years now. I think Mitch Bolden, just his experience in the system now, you're going to see the offense starting to really thrive. And we saw that last week with 49 points against Lakota East, who normally is a pretty good defense as well. So, I guess it's hard to predict. There's a lot of good teams in the GMC this year too, but and people have said that they think this is the year that it's the most evenly matched, I guess, conference. Just the parity in the conference is really good this year. So, sometimes that's coach speak. You never know if that's going to play out that way. I mean, Lakota West obviously is off to a strong start. So I still see them dominating the conference, and then it kind of depends on the matchups and just, catching fire, making sure everyone's healthy at the right time, and you need a little bit of that luck. So I think, making the regional final last year puts them in a really good spot this year. They've got a lot of those guys returning, so I think they'll be in the hunt for sure.
So you mentioned Coach Bolden earlier on. So being somebody who covers the GMC, I mean, you saw him go from Coleraine to now his more recent tenure here at West. So what has it been like watching that shift? Because, I mean, he was dominant in his days at Coleraine, and then he comes here and he almost brought that with him. It's like wherever he goes, that scene follows him as far as the success goes. So what has it been like watching that?
He just has that connection with the kids. He's obviously an experienced coach. And some coaches just have that winning mentality, and it makes a difference. And so, and his recruiting, like his ability, I don't want to say recruiting, but his connection with college coaches, it makes kids that might be thinking of going to a school like St. X or Moeller decide, hey, I'm going to stick with Lakota. And that makes a difference. You see a lot of the Division I athletes coming through the program, and in the past you might have seen those guys go to a different school. So you kind of figured it was gonna end up being something special. You saw it wasn't immediate. The first year was some ups and downs, but then definitely looked better than they had been in previous seasons. So it's been just incredible to see him take that success he had at Coleraine and just translate it here exactly the same way.
One of the moments where that success kind of shines is, as we've seen recently, those rivalry games, that St. X, and then going back to last week, Lakota East. So, I mean, all that energy heading into that week, everyone looks forward to that week. You mentioned you were in the first graduating class for East. So, looking back then compared to now, is there a difference? Is it more? Is it kind of less since it's kind of, I don't want to say died down over the years, but more time has passed since it was like brand new? What's that been like?
It has been interesting. I mean, when I was there, we had the Lakota East-West game played at Galbraith Field, which I don't even know if that exists anymore, but it was off campus. It was a neutral site, and it was huge. And then, it didn't, like you mentioned, the excitement of it kind of died down. But seeing it come back the last few years, I think it was maybe 2 years ago where both of them, I'm trying to remember, it's been... the years start to run together, but Lakota East has had some good teams as well in recent years, and to see it kind of pick back up, I guess I'm curious from you guys' perspective, how do you feel like it's really? I mean, when you win 49 to 6, does it feel as much of a rivalry?
Competition-wise, no, but I would say that there is more of an energy to it. I think maybe it's just because, I'm in my junior year, so I would say over the past few years it started to build up. I don't know if that's because I'm just now getting to the high school level or not. But actually, another thing I'm curious about is having kids in the West system, no matter how low they are, do they still feel that rivalry that young? Because I can remember a little bit of East-West banner even like back then.
Yeah, I don't think that it's gotten to that. My son, I guess my son's probably not a good. He enjoys playing sports. He hasn't really gotten into watching them yet. But I know some of the kids in our neighborhood, like they seem pretty excited in it. You see them wearing their Lakota West gear, and so I think it's kind of picking up. I remember because when I was young, it was just Lakota, and we were really into everything. And so I kind of want to bring that to my son and my daughter as well as she's getting older. But yeah, it's I got to start getting them to games, I guess.
Well, thank you, Laurel, for coming on today. It was a pleasure having you, and hope to see you soon again.
Thank you, and good luck to you guys with all you guys are doing.
Thank you.
All right, so our Firebirds obviously coming off that big win against Lakota East on the road, 49-6, the final on that. It seemed like everything seemed to be firing on all cylinders. Everything just kind of seemed to be clicking there. So what do you think the big difference maker was coming off that St. X game?
I think the big difference maker is that they found their rhythm. Week 1, they struggled to really find it, but they found it when it came time to need it, and they got the win. But week 2, they had it the whole time, and really what I think they realized in that offense is that the ball needs to be in the hand of the star players, specifically like Brennan Remy. When the ball gets to them, they can just make a play afterwards and then make big gains, and those big gains is what really breaks down the morale of the other team, really just makes it hard to get back into the game. And so that's what we were seeing there. It was just a locked-in rhythm and the ball in the star players' hands.
Yeah, so it seems like ever since that halftime of the St. X game, like everything just seemed to be clicking from that moment. They come back, they win that game, and then they didn't punt a single time against Lakota East. So that offense really taking a big step forward.
So is that essentially saying that they scored on every single drive there without punting at all against East?
Pretty much, yeah. Not a single kick.
Not a single kick. That's crazy. I mean, that's just crazy to think about that we scored on every drive.
Yeah, they weren't even field goals either. They were touchdowns.
They were touchdowns.
They found the end zone every single time.
There was in the NFL that's only ever happened once, and it was the Bills-Patriots game in the postseason where the Bills scored on every single drive or kneeled, and so that's what we saw there. It's pretty rare to see. Reason it might not think like it feel like it or surprise you is because our offense wasn't on the field that much. East ate up all the clock. And then the defense, even in the special teams, scored a couple times.
Yeah, because there was a running clock. That's why they ate up all the clock. I mean,
yeah.
It was really
and remember, they had that whole quarter-long drive.
Yeah,
that's true.
And so, yeah, that's why it doesn't feel like it was as much dominating offense, but it really was.
But you think about it, and that's literally 7 drives in the whole game for the Firebirds.
Yeah.
So it's seven drives, 7 scores.
Yeah, 6 drives, 6 scores. They had the punt block touchdown.
Okay, that's true. That's even crazier.
Yeah, it's even better. But you mentioned that first drive. It seems like that's where the game kind of started for what I mean. They were up 7-0 when it happened, but it seemed like you knew what East was in store for when they took 12 minutes to make a drive, essentially a full quarter down the field, and it ended in a punt.
Well,
yeah.
Go ahead, Grant.
Well, what we were looking at there is that was actually East's game plan. East wanted to go into that game and have the ball for the whole quarter. They wanted to keep the ball on the ground, and they wanted to move like that because they know how high-powered West's offense was. And so when you saw that, it actually looks promising for East there because when they drive down the field and they really make those gains, that's super wearing for the defense. And honestly, they had West where they wanted them, but it was those silly fouls that really brought them back and brought them back down to the ground. And that's what ended up shifting the momentum. The real big momentum shifter, though, was the blocked punt. That's what really put the nail in the coffin there.
Oh, for sure, because after that point, you could just tell no matter what, West had that game. And like you said earlier, Nick, West may have had that East game from halftime of the St. X game, from when a few of those chairs were broken, or you didn't want to be a fly on the wall, like you said.
Right.
But that momentum change happened, I think, definitely in that St. X game. And turned around. Like I've been saying all week, if we played against St. X the way we played against East, there would have been no close game at all. We would have absolutely blown them out of the water like it was nothing.
Yeah, and I mean, you even look at the defense. Like, let's be real here. The 6 points at the end of the East game when they called a timeout with 3 seconds left, those weren't our starters. So you look at what the starting team has done. They have not allowed a point since the first half of the St. X game because they shut down East. They came in, they stopped Eric Davis. I mean, that seemed like East, like a really big chunk of their game plan was just handed off up the middle, Eric Davis every time. That's what it felt like. And they didn't give up a point until the backups came in, and with 3 seconds left, East had to use a timeout, down 49 points. However, West is going to play another one this week back at home. The game changes. They'll take on Sycamore at Firebird Field, and it looks like this is even more of a winnable game for Lakota West.
Yeah, East has a bunch of great players, but Sycamore, they don't quite line up as much as East did. East had a bad week last week. It wasn't the East we know well, but Sycamore, you've just got a little bit of discrepancy here. Like, their turnovers is such a big problem. Their quarterback has 0 touchdowns to 5 interceptions and 2 rushes for a fumble and negative 18 yards. He's got some talent, and there's a lot of players with talent on Sycamore, but it just doesn't quite line up like East roster did, and I feel like West has a big chance to make something great happen here.
Yeah, I agree with that. And personally, I think we're going to blow Sycamore out of the water even worse than we did East. Like you said, East has some good players. It just wasn't their week. And for Sycamore, they have a passing offense that has had 0 touchdowns this year and 5 interceptions. And now coming in against the number 3 team in the state, what are they supposed to do? I mean, there's really nothing that you can do to prevent a blowout from happening against the number 3 team in the state when you can't even score a touchdown.
Yeah, one thing got to be make sure is you can never overlook any team. You take a break week, you don't look at the film, you don't practice. Sycamore could slide in and get a win. But that's not what Lakota West is doing. As we speak right now, they're out there grinding weights, out there practicing, getting ready, out there late every afternoon, and they're going to be ready for this week, and I expect to see a great game on West's behalf and a real game to bring some popcorn to this Friday.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, the number 3 team in the state. I mean, when you're that high and you have the talent that Lakota West has, you can go toe-to-toe with really anybody, not just in the state, but most teams in the country. They're ranked 83rd, 84th in the day. Yeah. You can go toe-to-toe with, I'd say, about 95% of the country, right? So especially when you're playing, I don't want to say playing down to teams like Sycamore, you just can't let that ego, for lack of a better term, you can't let that ego get in the way.
Yeah, I agree with your point, Nick, that we can't overlook a team like Sycamore, but I doubt the players are doing that right now. They are going to be prepared no matter what, and hopefully it is a blowout, but who knows what could happen. Sycamore could surprise us all. However, we did speak to the quarterback of the Lakota West Firebirds football team. He's going to give us his opinion on what he thinks will happen this week, and he will give us an insight on his recap of the East game we just had. So, here's Mitch Bolden.
Welcome. We've got a great guest on today, Mitch Bolden, QB of the Lakota West Firebirds. We're happy to have you on here, Mitch.
Yes, sir. I'm happy to be here.
All right, so first question I want to talk about is we're coming off a hot win there. You know, it's always great when you're in the fourth quarter and you're on the sideline. Always a good sign.
Yeah, and it's always great. You know, that's what you work for. You know, you work to get the backup guys in, you know, get a little break, and that's when you know you did your job.
So what did you think worked well that game?
Honestly, a little bit of everything. We were able to run the ball a little better than I thought. East was playing just playing off, so all the short game stuff was working, and you know, Brennan had himself a great night. It's always awesome. You can throw the ball 3 yards, and then he takes it for a 50-yard touchdown. So honestly, we could have done anything that night. It was because everything was clicking.
Yeah, so first half against St. X was a bit rough. Had a hard start there. But then second half you clicked, and all of East you clicked. What was that change that happened that really led you guys to being a dominant offense?
Well, my dad would say it was probably because he broke a couple chairs. But honestly, I think it's just we relaxed more. That X game, big atmosphere, big crowd. You know, we're trying to do too much, myself included, you know, and just got to sit back and realize it's a game. You know, I've been starting quarterback for 4 years. Like, I got plenty enough skill to do it, so I just started relaxing, letting the game come to me, and obviously, as you can tell, we started clicking.
Going forward, what do you think the team needs to prioritize to keep being dominant?
Running the ball. You know, I love running the ball. It's crazy that a quarterback saying, you know, running the ball, but, you know, if you can establish the run, it opens up the pass game. And play actions can come off of that, and it makes my job easier. And plus, chewing the clock, you know, it's just running the ball effectively against defense, it's just showing that you're more physical than them. So I think if we keep running the ball, we'll be good.
Oh, yeah. We've got a game coming up this Friday up against Sycamore. What you looking at for that game?
Just keep doing what we're doing. Build off of East, get better. My dad said it yesterday. It's not about the team that lines up against you. It's about us. We want to get better every week, because of the playoffs. So, it doesn't matter who's against us. We got to go out and do our job.
Speaking of playoffs, how you think you're looking this year? You think you're going to make it all the way this time?
That's the goal. It's senior year. Want to go out with a bang. And yeah, I mean that's the goal every year. That should be every team's goal. Is to win it all. That's why you play the game.
So you mentioned Brennan a little earlier on, and it seems like as of late so far this season, I mean, not just in the X game, but more so in the East game, I mean, that chemistry just seems to be like clicking really well all of a sudden. So what's it like not only having just a guy to throw to be that A guy, but just a young guy especially behind you? Yeah,
Brennan's been playing great since 2 days. He's always been there. He's never been really injured. And he's really breaking out this year, which I knew he would. He works hard. And having more than one guy to be able to throw the ball to, getting Trent back really helped Brennan out, to be honest. The game planned against Trent, and that left Brennan open. But, dude, he's a playmaker, man. I'm not going to be shocked if he scores 10, 20 more touchdowns this year. He's just a dog, man.
So as far as rivalry stuff goes, we saw, St. X is always a competitive game with West.
Yeah.
But heading into East, was it like the same, or because as far as the St. X and Lakota East rivalry goes, one seems to be competition-based and the other seems to be district-based. So is there any like different approach as far as rivalry energy goes?
Yes. I don't really know how to describe it, but yes. St. X has just been a great game for the past 3 years. And they're just so well coached that you have to make plays. Like you have to, you just have to make the moment count. You know what I mean? You gotta capitalize on their errors. And East is just a little bit more emotional. You know what I'm saying? Me personally, I haven't, but a lot of my teammates grew up playing with those kids. And it's just so much emotion, which can sometimes be, bad, but sometimes it's good. And so I think that's the major difference between is one's more competition, like one win the game, and one's just a more emotional bragging rights. So
which one would you say you feel like more of a boost to your competition going in?
I would say X. No disrespect to East, but I don't really know many East people. I'm new to the district. I know St. X people. They beat us sophomore year, and we were supposed to win it all. And that stuck with me. And obviously, my dad's known Coach Speck, their head coach, for a long time, and that always boosts the competition.
Well, we want to thank you for coming on today, Mitch.
Yes, sir.
Always great talking with you.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure watching you, too.
Yes, sir.
And go out there and win a game for us this Friday, man.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you boys having me on. It's always a blast to tune into these.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And talk about not just that amazing game, but also the game coming up on Friday. And speaking of which, we got a couple predictions becoming a little bit of a tradition around here. The first two were good games for guessing scores. This one probably even more so. There are a lot of possibilities, things that could happen here. So, I mean, you look at a team like Sycamore, you look at a team like West. I don't think it should be close. It might be close, like I said, if there is playing down. I don't think there will be. So I'm going to say another blowout, not quite 49-6, 47-3.
We cut it down by a few points, huh?
Uh-huh.
You're definitely going to get that punishment at the end of the year, aren't we? What's your record, by the way? Have we checked that?
We have not checked it. We need to do better with that.
We do need to do better with that. But take a look at my prediction. I'm going to go ahead and say that West is going to come out confident. They know what they can do, and they know who Sycamore is. And not to say anything bad towards Sycamore, but they know who Sycamore is. They know what they can do against them, and they know what they can do by themselves. So I'm going to say that it's going to be a pretty big scoreline here. Sycamore may get something on it when we put it in our reserves towards the end of the game because of our running clock, but I'll go ahead and give it a maybe, I don't know, 50, 54. I'm gonna go high here. 54-3.
Well, heard both of your predictions. Got one of my own.
Oh really?
Oh yeah.
Let's hear it.
I see Lakota West winning this one. Very surprising, isn't it?
I can't believe it.
I had no idea.
You believe it? All right. Well, we've got West taking this one, 38-6.
38-6.
That's a little low.
Yeah, you don't want to just burn out and take 1,000 points. Also, Sycamore, it's still a football game. It's not like any of these teams are just outright bad. I believe you're not going to see a blowout every single week. It's not going to happen like that. It's not going to roll that way. 38-6 would still be a blowout technically, but the score isn't just going to go up every week. I see this still being a big game score, but at the end of the day, I just see it as a little bit less points than the Lakota East game.
Well, you're the analyst for a reason, so maybe you've got the best prediction here. I guess we'll find out this Friday.
Prediction's kind of like winning the lottery. I mean, you can always do a little bit of analyst to it, but getting the exact score of the game, it's a bit of gambling there.
What are you gambling, your money?
The punishment at the end of the year.
You can always make it money.
No, we're good. Well,
Nah, let's not do that.
all right, guys. Well, we want to thank all the viewers for tuning in this week to Bird Talk. Another great week we had here. Some great guests. A lot of fun on the podcast this week. And we hope to see you later tonight for the Sycamore game. And as always, go Firebirds.